Just making sure that you all can hear me, see me, and also see the presentation. If you can't, then just let me know. But I think we're going to get started. So warm welcome to this webinar today. My name is Dan Mortimer. I'm the founder of Performance Laws and the creator of the contact cultivation system. We'll talk more about that later on here in the presentation. First of all, I want to thank you for signing up and for taking the time to dial in and listen to me live today. I know that you're all busy and there's a lot of other things that you can do with your time. So appreciate that you allocate 1 hour with us today. And that's precisely it. It's a 1 hour presentation. I think I'm going to spend about 45 minutes speaking, and then we'll have around 15 minutes left for Q&A at the end. All of your lines are muted. So if you have questions for the Q&A, you can ask them throughout in the chat function. And you can obviously also ask them live. So if you want to ask a question live at the end, all you have to do is raise your hand or comment in the comment section, and I'll unmute you, and then you can ask your question live. We have a lot of people that have signed up today. It's over 200. I don't expect that many to participate live, but I do expect to continuously let people in. So apologies if I get a little bit distracted at times, because right now we have a lot of people joining. But I think with that said, let's have a look at the agenda for today. So here's what we're going to cover. First of all, we're going to look at the different ways that you can obtain cases as an expert. And next, we're going to move on because I want this to be hands-on for you. So we're going to look at how you immediately can implement activities that can drive tangible results. That will be a big block. And then once we get closer to the end of the presentation, I'll share a case study with you. One of our clients who made, I think actually now it's more than $500,000 in 12 months using some of the techniques that we're going to go through here in this webinar. And then finally, we've got a special offer for you. So make sure that you stay to the end. You get to hear about the case study, you get to see the special offer, and then obviously it's the Q&A session. So I'm going to leave it up to you to decide whether you want to listen to me or not, but hopefully you stay to the end so that you get all the information, and you can decide for yourself whether you think this is something that's relevant for you to implement in your business development or not. But I did want to give you 4 points for why I think what we're going to talk about here is relevant. The first one is that the techniques that I'm going to share with you are current, meaning that our clients are using them today with success. A lot of the times, expert witness marketing advice is quite dated, and it's also incomplete. It revolves around updating your CV and maybe sending it out or getting a website. So what we're going to talk about here is much more impactful. These techniques are also proven, meaning our clients are getting tangible results today. And by tangible, I mean actual bottom line cases and revenue coming in. You can work with different marketing and business development people and coaches that add value to your business, but it's really important to be clear about what value is to you. I assume you're on here for a reason, and we're not going to talk about how you get more website visits or LinkedIn views or LinkedIn connections. It's part of the program. But ultimately, I think you're here to learn about how you can increase revenue for your business, not get more views on your LinkedIn posts. And many marketing people will actually do that for you. They will increase your LinkedIn connections or views or help you with your CV, but none of that is generally a direct driver of business. Third point, effective. So our clients can minimize the time and effort that they spend to drive positive results. So it doesn't take very long to do these things. So you don't have to waste time and energy, and you don't have to waste money either. Fourth and final point, these are relevant techniques. So our clients are expert witnesses. So what you're seeing here is not something that we recommend to restaurant owners or app developers, because we don't work with those professionals. And I think that's really important too. If you're going to implement advice, you really want to make sure that that advice is relevant to what you're doing, and the person who's given the advice has demonstrated success with not only a moonshot, but actually consistently being able to help expert witnesses get more business. So that's it from me in terms of background. Now, quick comment on who we are. So like I said, my name's Dan Mortimer. I spent over 20 years providing sophisticated services to advanced target audiences. And then I started Performance Laws about 6 years ago. The reason I mention this is because I've done what you do, and I still, to some extent, also do it today. And I think that's really important if you want to give someone advice, that you have, you share similar experiences or the same experience. So 6 years ago, I started Performance Laws, and we work with, I guess, about 200 clients today all over the world. In small rural areas to big cities to even the Australian outback, the countryside. So we're really all clients all over the place. And here's me speaking at an event, and here's me interacting with some of our clients on a Zoom call. So enough about that. Before we get into the depths and details of what I want to tell you today, I do want to leave a thought with you. Just think about what it is that you really want, because a lot of times we talk about, how do I get more cases? How do I connect with more attorneys? How do I get more referrals? How do I make more money? And all of that is really important. That's what we help you with. But what you can do to help yourself is also be clear about why you want all of those things. So when we speak with our clients, generally, there will be one or several of these points as a driver, and then also additional points why they're interested in doing this. Perhaps you're interested in yourself in leaving your day job. Perhaps you want to start your own company and hire people, other experts. Perhaps you already have a company today that you want to grow. Perhaps you want to be location independent or create an income stream for retirement or a second income stream. So what is it that's important for you? And I'll give you one example. We have a client, John, who we started working with about 3 years ago. He's in the US, where most of our clients are, in a big city. And he told me on our first call that, Dan, I'm interested in moving to the countryside. I want to live in a small town closer to the coast, together with my wife, maybe spend some more time with our daughter. And if the conditions allow it, maybe I can even spend time like sailing all the time while doing my work, but just doing it in a location independent way. So fast forward 2.5 years, John has achieved most of those goals. So he's moved to the US East Coast, small town, and with his wife, they live close to nature, close to water, and he's doing most of his work there. He also bought a plot of land close to his daughter in Arizona, and now him and his wife are considering building a little house there. And the only thing that we really have left is his boat. And I think we're well on our way to make that happen for him. So think about what the drivers are for you. Now, let's look at the system that we're going to cover today. So most experts that we speak with struggle with one or several of these points. Having insufficient cases, so basically not getting as much cases or clients that they would want to. And also having ebbs and flow, so a lack of consistency in case generation. And finally, a lack of business development knowledge. And what that kind of translates it into is a lack of a roadmap, a clear understanding of what it is that needs to be done to get more business. And if you're in an ebb. You're not seeing as much business as you want to at present. Like, what is it that you can do immediately? What is it that you can do more long term? And when you're busy, what are you supposed to do to ensure that you continue to stay busy? So those questions are really important for the people that we speak with and the people that we end up working with. If we look at how cases are generated as an expert, there's two different streams. One is active case generation. And that simply means that you're getting referrals directly from attorneys. Attorneys are your clients, they contact you, and you work on a case together with them. The other option is passive case generation. And that's based on referrals. So those referrals are generally coming in from agencies, directories, brokers, or even employment if you are employed. So what I want to share with you here is what are the advantages and disadvantages with these two different ways. So if we start with the active case generation, then the downside here is that it requires a certain amount of effort. And it also requires knowledge because you need to know what to do to get these attorneys to start sending you business. And to some extent, it may also involve time. For the passive case generation, the main disadvantages would be fees, because you end up sharing 10 to 40% of what you make with these different referral parties. The other point is ownership, as in you're not owning the relationships. Someone else owns those. And that means that if something changes, you're in no position to influence anything because you're effectively just receiving what they can send you. And in our experience, any number of things can change. Now, those referral parties can be, they can have more experts join their ranks, which means that it's less cases for you. They can shut down operations. They can face more competition themselves so that they get less business. So there are multiple things that can happen that will result in less business for you. The final point is process. And by that, I mean, if you are relying on these referral parties, then some of them can be quite hands-off. Others are very actively involved as gatekeepers because they ultimately want to protect their position. They want the 10 to 40% of what you make. And that could also create situations where you doing your job isn't working as smoothly as you would want to. This could also mean that you, for instance, don't get paid when you want to. There's no guarantee that the attorneys are going to pay you on time directly either, but here there's an additional layer. If we look at the advantages with each of these, so starting with passive case generation, goes without saying, it's convenient. You don't need to do anything. You send in your CV, and then basically, if you're lucky, cases start coming. So it's low effort. For active case generation, the main advantages are that you now own the relationships. So you are directly interacting with the attorneys, you establish a business relationship with them, and now all of a sudden you're in a much better position to control when and how you're getting cases. You have better longevity. You can plan in a totally different way. You also end up getting paid more, and you are in better control of how you fulfill your job, whether it's testimony or report. But there's not going to be a gatekeeper that's involved trying to protect their relationship. The interesting thing here is that most experts are only doing this. They're only doing the passive case generation. They're completely leaving this out, which means that they're leaving 50% of how they can generate business off the table. And it could potentially be much more than 50% if you look at revenue. And to me, I mean, that doesn't make sense. I wouldn't want to leave money on the table. And I don't see why you would want to leave money on the table. So we're going to talk a little bit more about this today, about how you can ensure that you are getting some of that direct business too. But before we do, let's just look at how you can get more passive business. This is actually quite similar to how you would approach getting active business. in the sense that it comes down to identifying which directories, listings, and agencies that use experts with your knowledge. You know, you can do that through friends, through peers, through competitors, through colleagues, through online searches, and then effectively just prioritize in terms of relevance, effectiveness, and fees. You know, decide if you're prepared to pay upfront and how much you're ready to share if you do end up getting cases. And the same thing really applies to brokers. Expert witness brokers, you can find them online on LinkedIn, through their websites, Google searches, and you can engage with them, extract the information that you need, and then make a decision. I would just say, well, number one, I would never leave this off the table, because if you can get business this way, it's pretty good. You know, you don't really have to do anything. It's just coming in. But do make sure that you don't spend too much time on it without having a reasonable understanding of whether it's going to pay off or not. And again, like we'll come back to that. You want to make sure that you engage with referral parties that have a demonstrated track record of sending people just like you business and doing it consistently. Because honestly, 80% of these cases tends to go to 20% of the experts. So there are a lot of experts that join these directories and agencies, but we don't see any results. In fact, you know, the lucky few will probably see some, but a lot aren't seeing any cases at all. And you know, this leads me to this point. If you're getting 0 cases from the agencies and the referral listings that you're part of, then don't spend too much time trying to come up with more. Because if you're getting 0 and you're adding 20, then that are adding 0, you're still going to end up with 0. And this may seem a little bit obvious or simplistic, but I've had conversations like this. And it's actually one particular one that comes to mind, like a year or two ago, where someone was part of 7 directories. And he told me that, Dan, I realized this isn't working and I'm not getting the cases that I want to. But I'm just trying to find like 10 additional ones now that hopefully will make a difference. So don't be that guy. The reason why most experts probably don't focus on active case generation is they're not aware of that is an option. And if they are aware, they're not sure of what to do, how to do it. And some are probably not interested because they prefer to just get whatever they can from passive case generation. But I do think that this lack of interest could also be derived from the fact that one doesn't really know what to do. So when it comes to this active case generation, it really only takes 15 to 30 minutes per day. We're not talking of hours and hours of business development efforts. It can be done pretty quickly. And what decides the speed of success when it comes to getting direct business from attorneys is several different things, but we have limited time today. But the main thing is whether you have existing clients today or not. If you have existing attorney clients today, then it's very likely that you're going to be able to get more business from them and more business from other attorneys by utilizing and leveraging your existing network. If you have no clients today, then it means that it's going to take a little bit longer because developing relationships always takes time. But what we see here, and I don't want to set this as an expectation, but if someone has, let's say like 10 to 20 attorney clients, then that's usually sufficient to almost get immediate results. Whereas if you have 0 clients today, then you are going to have to spend months developing those generally. But again, and I'll share that with you, some examples. Sometimes even new clients can come in really quickly. But I'd rather err on the side of caution here in terms of setting expectations for you. So let's look at this active system. This is effectively our contact cultivation system that you're now going to get a sneak peek into. This looks pretty complicated, but you are all clever folks, and don't worry about Don't worry about if this looks complicated. We're gonna explain it, and it's all gonna make great sense for you. What I want to draw your attention to here is relationships and network and visibility. Those are the main drivers when it comes to active business. And we're now going to look at each of those. So visibility can come in two different forms, supporting effort and as a direct driver. Let's start with supporting effort. By this, I mean, and let me just maybe also tell you what I mean by visibility. Visibility is any type of visibility that you have on and offline. It could be your LinkedIn profile. It could be you posting on LinkedIn. It could be you posting on your blog. It could be you writing a book, teaching, speaking at an event. So those are all visibility-oriented measures. For the most part, visibility is not a direct driver of business. Networks and relationships are, and that's what we're going to get to after this. But experts can generate business based on their visibility. Our recommendation is often to just see it as a supporting effort. So you focus a lot on network and relationships with attorneys, and you use the visibility as a supporting effort. So if someone wants to find out more about you, they will find relevant information. They go to your website, they find good stuff there. If they look at your LinkedIn profile, it sends the right message. But it's not something that ultimately generates immediate business or direct business. So the reason why we do it this way is because it's really the path of least resistance. You don't have to spend a lot of time and effort on producing content this way. The only thing that it takes is just try to do it with reasonable consistency. So let's say that you post content once per week or once every second week on your blog or on your LinkedIn profile. Like that's generally sufficient. And you can also use one or multiple channels. It's not a competition. You know, more is not better here. More is not more. If you have a blog and if you have a LinkedIn profile or even just one of those, then that could be sufficient. It's also important to keep in mind, and the reason I mentioned this here about how you should view the content that you produce is because some people get discouraged by the fact that no one views their LinkedIn posts or comments on them or shares them. Just keep in mind that you are producing for others, as in you want others to see it, but you're also producing for yourself. And by that, I mean, if you have 10 blog posts, then that could make up a couple of chapters in a book. If you have 10 or 5 LinkedIn posts, then that could make a longer article. If you've got a book that you've written, then that book could become articles and LinkedIn posts. So you're also producing to repurpose. So there's multiple reasons for why you should produce content. An additional reason is actually that it also helps you think about what your target audience wants to hear and what do these attorneys want to hear. Having said that, visibility can also be a direct driver. So that kind of depends on whether you like it or not. If you like to produce content and you see results with it, then go ahead, by all means do it. It can be a catalyst for getting more business. And I think it's important to also mention that SEO here plays a role for many experts. So search engine optimization, having your website rank highly, can be a direct driver of business, because some attorneys, when they don't really know whom to turn to, they will Google search and they can find you that way. And I'm sure that many of you have experience with that. It's just good to think about how much time, money, and energy that you put into that, because it does require consistent effort. Final comment, don't let fear of relationship building and interaction with attorneys prevent you from focusing on relationships and networking. Don't hide behind a keyboard here and produce content and do nothing else, because those other things are really what will create the best and most effective impact. And those other things are relationships and network. And we can divide that into two different parts, new contacts and existing contacts. And if you recall, I mentioned if you have existing contacts, usually that's a quicker way to more business. New contacts will take a little bit longer generally. So the way we approach this is through 4 different pillars: contact initiation, contact cultivation, contact preservation and leverage, and activity implementation. So here's where we like sow the initial seeds. Here's where we nurture that connection, because most people that we connect with or meet at a conference aren't ready to give us business immediately. So we need to find a way of just staying in touch and effectively just bringing that relationship forward. Once we've established a business relationship, then we can start leveraging that. And also keep in mind, you can have the best system in the world, but if you do nothing with it, if you don't implement activities, then obviously nothing will happen. So this part is also very important. So if you look at existing contacts, here's what you can do. Contact initiation, you obviously skip because you already have initiated that contact. They're an existing attorney client. So the one recommendation I can give to you is just to stay in touch. Stay in touch with them. Stay top of mind. It doesn't matter if it was one day ago someone interacted with you or you interacted with them, or if it was 20 years ago. Last night we had a call with one of our client groups, and someone told an example of a contact that they made 20 years ago and how they had reconnected. So it's all about staying top of mind. But once you've established that business relationship and you're staying top of mind, you're staying current, then you're going to be able to leverage that relationship. You're going to be able to get more business from that contact. And you're also going to be able to have your contact help you out and network on your behalf. You know, word of mouth, effectively. There's nothing more powerful than word of mouth. And this goes on 24/7, where whether you're on your sailing boat, on your plot of land, or on holiday or in the office or whatever you're doing, you know, that goes on. And visibility helps here as a supporting effort. And when it comes to implementation, what you really want to think about here is, what is it that you absolutely need to do yourself? I think number one thing, you need to take care of your existing clients. Only you can do that. But I know that you guys are busy, and I know that business development only gets fun once you start seeing results. So until that happens, most people aren't too keen on spending too much time on it. So that's why you can think about, what can others do for you? You know, what is it that you can outsource or insource? A lot of the work that precedes someone becoming a client and a lot of the visibility work can be done by others. And you may also want to think about what can be automated, what can be implemented through standard operating procedures, etc. When it comes to new contacts, it's not all that different than existing contacts. All of this is pretty much the same, but there are a couple of points here, and then obviously the initial stage. So to be able to do this effectively, what you need to do is 3 things. First of all, you need to define who's your client. You know, is it IP attorneys? Is it real estate attorneys? Or is it something entirely different? Completely different field or niche area. Once you know that, then you are able to define, where do I find these different audiences? If I am targeting attorneys that are focused on real estate or construction, where can I find them? Well, I can probably find them online on LinkedIn, but any other online area, maybe some sort of directory, can I find them in real life? Probably at some event, probably at some bar association event, probably at some industry type of event. So you need to map that out and then prioritize, what ways would make sense for you to focus on initially. What is it that will create most bang for your buck? And what are sort of more long-term initiatives? Once you know this, then you know with what kind of messaging to approach them, where to approach them, and how to approach them. The initial point of contact is naturally important, but what's even more important, and I don't think anybody really covers this in detail, like what do you do after you've met someone at a conference or you connected with someone on LinkedIn? What do you do if someone says, this is great, I'm going to keep you in mind? I bet you guys even tell people that, keep me in mind. It's actually not their job to keep you in mind. is your job to make sure that you are kept in mind. And the only way you can do that is through continuous effort and through patience. These are sophisticated audiences, so we do not want to come across as needy, pushy, or salesy. It needs to be done in a very delicate way, delicate but effective. So that's what happens here in the contact cultivation part. Now, I want to share with you some success stories here from our clients. And if you recall the pillars that I shared with you, pillar 1 was contact initiation and pillar 2 was cultivation. So these are all relating to new connections. So can you get business from new connections? And yes, you can. Here's 2 examples from shared in our private client community by the same person. So first, this lady reached out to an attorney via good old-fashioned post, via mail, and got business that way, working on a case for him. Second example is she used LinkedIn to connect with a couple of attorneys, had 2 calls on the back of it, and now, since this was posted, she's actually working with one of those attorneys and in the process of working with the other one. So you can definitely get business this way. Here's another example of LinkedIn and email. So this particular client of ours found a post by an attorney online on LinkedIn and then reached out to them via email and did it in such a way as the attorney ended up responding, there was an exchange, and they ended up working together. So our client got a case on the back of this. Again, an example from new contact cultivation. Here, there's one of our clients were persistently keeping in touch, consistently probably would have been a better word, keeping in touch with a new attorney contact via email, and then ended up booking 2 cases with this attorney on the back of that. And then the final new contact cultivation example, cold LinkedIn outreach by one of our expert clients, ended up leading to new business and a new case. So this is just to show you that it's not to show you that you need to do LinkedIn or you need to send people physical mail, but it's just to show you that you are able to get business by active interaction directly with attorneys. And I also want to share with you how you can get business from visibility. So on this example here to the left, one of our clients just posted on LinkedIn and had an attorney reach out, and she ended up working with him. So she actually shared the whole story on video on one of our group calls, and this is available in our community. The other example is also something that was shared in one of our group calls. This client posted something on LinkedIn, and an attorney reached out and asked her about that and commended her on the post. That led to an exchange, and a few months later, they ended up working together. So our client got a case on the back of that. And let me also share a couple of examples here of how you can get business from your existing network. So if you remember, if you have existing clients, then that's usually a way to generate faster results for most people. So here, this is actually shared quite recently by one of our clients. He implemented some of the activities that I shared with you around staying top of mind, and booked 7 new engagements on the back of that. And that was almost immediate. So by no means something that happens every day, but it does happen, particularly if you have a very strong profile, a solid network of attorney clients and contacts, and you haven't really stayed in touch with them much, then you can get pretty substantial and impactful results pretty quickly. Here's another example of someone that really had sort of fallen off the wagon relating to staying in touch with her attorney clients. So she wanted a strategy for reaching back out. And when she did, then she saw very fast results here as well. So I realized that we're sort of getting towards the end of the presentation, so I'll skip one of those. I wanted to share with you this case study. So this is an expert client that we started working with, I guess, about a year and a half ago. And I ended up emailing her back in February, and I just asked her, like, what could you just tell me, how much have you generated over the past year or so since starting working with us? And her response was that about $450,000 to $500,000, and it seems to be snowballing. I've got 4 more large matters currently. This ended up being more than 500,000, and she's still working with us, and she's still generating very, very good results. Super busy expert. The reason why she was able to do this was that, well, first of all, I should say she only focused on active case generation. So she has no passive business coming in from directories or any type of agents or anything. It's only direct relationships with attorneys. She had a pretty decent existing network, so she was by no means a beginner. And as I mentioned, that can lead to faster results. And what she did was she didn't get lazy here and just utilized her existing network. She had a combined effort of reaching out to new contacts and also focusing on staying top of mind with existing clients. So she was able to generate cases both from new and existing contacts. So this is a fantastic outcome for her, and she's the type of person that is always very happy to share. So she's frequently in the group telling people what's working for her and what isn't working, and how she's changing her business development strategy and so on. And that's really what you need if you're trying to get started with this yourself. It's helpful to hear it from someone other than me, for instance. Now you may say, well, Dan, I'm based in London, or I'm based in Hong Kong, or I'm based in South Africa. Like, will this work for me? The answer is yes, it will. I'll tell you why soon. You may also ask me, Dan, I'm an expert when it comes to UFOs, or I'm an expert when it comes to submarines, or I'm an expert when it comes to construction or real estate. Will this work for me? The answer is yes, without a doubt. And why is that? Well, ultimately, you're always interacting with other people on the other end. On the other end, it's attorneys. It doesn't matter if you're in LA or New York or in London or Hong Kong or in Dublin or in Melbourne, you're always going to be targeting attorneys with your efforts. And it doesn't matter where they're based. The system remains the same. Now, naturally, there are nuances. If you are in the countryside compared to being in Los Angeles, then naturally there's going to be a difference in how much business is available, but there's also going to be a difference when it comes to how much competition you're facing. But I think this is a really important point to make, because I do know that it gets asked frequently, like, will this work for me? And for the vast majority of people we speak with, the answer is yes. And if it doesn't work, it's not because of the location. It's generally because of what they're looking to do, what they're prepared to do, and to some extent, what the market looks like. So, having said all of that, I hope you are interested in learning more about our clients and community. Like, here's a sample of interviews that we've done with some of our clients, and obviously all of this is readily available to you. We have plenty of free videos, interviews, articles, YouTube channel, you name it, webinar recordings that you can benefit from. And I should also say that we not only meet online, sometimes we meet in person. I recently met one of our clients in London, UK, but we had such a good time, so I ended up forgetting to take a selfie of us. So I did this little mock-up and shared in the group instead. So there you go. If you want to get more free information, here's how you can do that. Go to our website, performancelaws.com, click free group, then you end up here. Click yes, I want more business, fill in the information that you're asked for. Is basically your name and email and a couple of questions. Then you get access to our free community, free cultivation group. I think we're about 300 members today. In here, you can meet and interact with other professionals, other expert witnesses, and just basically share what's working and learn from others. You can also access free information, like setting up your LinkedIn profile in 30 minutes, like how to set up a very effective profile that speaks to your target audience. And you can also access a completely free training program that we launched a few weeks back. It's called The Art of Cultivation. And it captures a lot of what we talked about here today, but in more detail. Having said all of this, if you really want detail, then nothing will obviously be better than the paid for programs that we offer. And I'm thinking specifically here of the cultivation system. So let me tell you about what that is, and let me also tell you about the special offer. The cultivation system effectively will give you 4 things. It will give you online training. So it's about 30 hours of video-based training that will walk you through our system, how to implement it in very high granularity. This is, this is proper in-depth training. It's not going to be advice like you should get a website. It will actually show you how to approach attorneys and how to cultivate those relationships. In the client community, you can also share, learn, ask questions. We do regular collaboration calls where we get on. It's not to a place for referrals, but it's a place where we discuss what's working when it comes to active case generation. And you also get access to a one-on-one call with me, so direct interaction. Now, the final thing I'd like to say is you have some choices now. You can postpone. Postponing is never really a good approach if you want to get results. Status quo. I'm assuming you joined this call for a reason. So waiting and seeing, I wouldn't recommend. If you feel like you want to do this yourself, just think about it in the context of how much time, money, and energy do you have to spend to learn everything. It can be years to learn and implement things like that. Is that what you want? How many cases could you have done during that time? And you always end up spending money, because what tends to happen is you have kind of like a fragmented effort. You hire people to do pockets of your business development. And, someone fixes your website, someone helps you with your blog, someone produces some content. And by the end of it, you've ended up spending quite a lot of money. So just keep that in mind. Like, it's never free to do it yourself. And if you feel like you're already doing everything, I'm already staying in touch with people and I'm already getting passive business. Just keep in mind that if I told you, here's a bucket of paint, here's a paintbrush, here's some scaffolding, could you then replicate the Sistine Chapel that Michelangelo painted? You're probably going to say, no, Dan, I couldn't. But why? You have all the tools that you need. You just go ahead and paint. Because obviously there's a difference when it comes to skills. We do this for a living, and you do expert witness work for a living, and you're probably very good at it. And we're pretty good at what we do too. So there's probably no reason for you to have to do everything. Even if you think that you're doing everything today, you could probably still benefit from expert advice. So if you end up seeking expert advice, whether it's with us or someone else, just keep in mind that you should try to find someone that knows what they're doing, that have demonstrated success for expert witnesses, and they have been able to demonstrate success over time. Success defined as actually helping them get more business, not more LinkedIn views. So I hope you enjoy that. Think about what it is that you want. Where do you want to go? What do you want to achieve? What's the underlying driver for getting more business? And if you feel like you enjoyed what I talked about here today and you're interested in signing up, then you can respond to any email that I've sent, and I'll give you the details. If you feel like you want more information, then schedule a free consultation call before the 2nd of July. You can, again, respond to any email that I've sent to set up a call, or you just go to our website, performancesource.com, click contact, and then you get my calendar, and you could just pencil in sometimes. No obligation. And what we tend to do on these calls is really provide free advice. We're not trying to force you to do business with us. It's important that you want that, and it's important that you're a right fit, which is why we tend to do these calls, because we want to speak with the person and see if they are the right fit for our group effectively. We don't want you to join and leave. We want you to join and stay for the long term. So I think that's everything that I had to say. I did run over a little bit, but we had a lot to cover. So I'll stop there and I'll open it up for questions.